Meyer Lansky was born in 1902 in the city of Grodno, then part of the Russian Empire, now Belarus. He grew up in a poor Jewish family amid ethnic tensions and violent anti-Semitic pogroms. His parents brought him to the United States when he was still a child, setting foot in New York City, a place that promised a chance at a new life. From his earliest days living in the Lower East Side, Lansky showed sharp intelligence and a natural instinct for numbers. Unlike many other young boys of his generation, Lansky didn't dream of becoming a gunman or a street thug. He had a different gift: managing money and finance. Lansky quickly formed close bonds with some of the most prominent names in New York's underworld: Benjamin Bugsy Siegel, Lucky Luciano, and Frank Costello. Among this group, Lansky held a central role as the chief accountant and financial advisor, helping the bosses accumulate wealth and manage assets with extraordinary sophistication. Together with Luciano, Lansky played a pivotal role in restructuring the American Mafia during the 1930s. They established the Commission, a secret council created to prevent internal wars between mafia families while expanding operations nationwide. Lansky focused especially on legal or semi-legal gambling enterprises, turning casinos and betting parlors into a financial gold mine for the mob. One of Lansky's greatest successes was developing the gambling empire in Cuba, working in collaboration with the Batista regime to turn Havana into a gambling paradise. From there, he expanded his influence into the Bahamas, Las Vegas, and many other parts of the world. However, Lansky's success did not come without controversy or trouble. Under the direction of J. Edgar Hoover, the FBI, along with other anti-mafia forces, constantly surveilled him and sought to dismantle his network. Lansky, however, was a master of evasion and concealment. He always maintained a thick veil of protection, allowing him to survive numerous investigations and prosecutions. After establishing a solid position in New York's underworld and becoming the trusted financial manager of the Commission, Meyer Lansky began to think on a bigger scale. He didn't just want to grow rich from domestic criminal operations. He wanted to build an international empire. One of the most important turning points in Lansky's career was his shift toward legal and semi-legal gambling. He clearly saw that street-level gambling, while highly profitable, always carried the risk of police crackdowns. Lansky and his allies began investing in legal casinos, leveraging relationships with local governments and politicians to legitimize their operations. As early as the 1930s, Lansky had established close ties with Fulgencio Batista's regime in Cuba, back when Batista was still a rising power behind the scenes. Lansky capitalized on Cuba's political stability and openness to foreign investment to build luxury casinos in Havana, transforming the city into the Las Vegas of the Caribbean. These casinos not only attracted wealthy American tourists, but also became massive money laundering hubs for organized crime. Lansky wasn't just the financial planner. He directly oversaw daily operations, ensuring that profits flowed consistently and transparently back to the American Mafia bosses. Thanks to his leadership, Havana became a mafia paradise for nearly 2 decades. But Lansky didn't stop at Cuba. He also laid the groundwork for the development of Las Vegas, partnering with other mob figures like Bugsy Siegel, who was tasked with building the Flamingo Hotel Casino. Lansky played a role in transforming a dusty desert town in Nevada into America's gambling capital. However, as his empire grew, so did the attention from the FBI and other anti-mafia agencies. FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover was determined to dismantle organized crime entirely, but Lansky always managed to stay out of reach, using cunning and secrecy to evade prosecution. He carefully avoided direct involvement in violence or drug trafficking, focusing instead on financial management and complex transactions, making it nearly impossible to convict him. Despite the Flamingo project facing major setbacks and early losses, Lansky remained committed. He believed that with tight control and smart investment, Las Vegas would become a stable and long-term source of profit. A key factor in Lansky's success was his ability to maintain good relations with other mafia bosses, including Charles Lucky Luciano, Frank Costello, and Vito Genovese. Lansky was viewed as the brain of the criminal underworld, the man who kept rival factions from fighting, prevented bloody turf wars, and ensured that the money kept flowing. Alongside a life filled with power and wealth, Meyer Lansky had another side few people knew, that of a husband, father, and citizen trying to balance between two worlds. Meyer Lansky married Anna Citron in the 1920s. They had 3 children, and despite the loud, dangerous life he led on the outside, Lansky tried to keep his family away from trouble. He was extremely strict about protecting their privacy and never allowed anything to interfere with his home life. Unlike many other mob bosses who flaunted their wealth, Lansky lived modestly. He preferred peace and quiet, spending much of his time reading, studying finance, and planning long-term investments. This made him stand out, and even earned him respect within the mafia. Even though he always kept a veil of secrecy over his operations, Meyer Lansky couldn't avoid investigations and prosecutions by the U.S. government. In 1950, Lansky was charged in connection with money laundering and drug trafficking. However, with strong legal strategy and careful preparation, he avoided conviction. Part of this success came from his sophisticated network of lawyers and covert support from powerful figures. In the 1960s, the FBI continued applying pressure to dismantle Lansky's operations. But he knew how to evade them, moving assets offshore, using shell companies, and staying several steps ahead of law enforcement. One of the most publicized moments was when the U.S. attempted to deport Lansky to Israel due to his Jewish heritage. However, thanks to diplomatic complexity and political connections, Lansky was allowed to remain in the United States and continue overseeing his empire. By the 1970s, Lansky had gradually stepped away from direct criminal operations. He moved to Miami and Cuba, focusing on managing investments and keeping life stable for his family. However, the political upheaval in Cuba after the 1959 revolution caused the collapse of Havana's gambling empire. This was a heavy blow to Lansky, forcing him to shift his attention to operations in the U.S. and other parts of the Caribbean. Meyer Lansky died in 1983 in Miami at the age of 80. His death was quiet, without myth or spectacle, but he left behind a strong legacy and a profound influence on the world of organized crime. Meyer Lansky was not just a successful crime boss in his era, but he also left a lasting impact, arguably revolutionizing the way organized crime operates across the globe. Lansky is often considered the financial brain of the mafia. He was the first to systematically implement money laundering tactics, legal investment strategies, and structured asset management, minimizing risks that earlier criminal organizations had never even considered. Many methods of managing illicit funds, using shell companies, and transferring money internationally, first pioneered by Lansky, are still used in the underworld today. Later crime bosses learned from and built upon the financial strategies Lansky introduced. Lansky's operations extended far beyond the U.S. He expanded his network into Cuba, the Bahamas, Canada, and even Europe. Through casinos and front companies, he helped build one of the first transnational organized crime empires, laying the foundation for the modern-day global mafia. It's impossible to ignore Lansky's role in turning the gambling industry into one of the most powerful sectors of the underground economy. The casinos he helped fund and operate in Havana and Las Vegas were not just entertainment venues, but crucial financial hubs that allowed the mafia to move and clean money away from the prying eyes of authorities. Many of today's casino operations, customer tracking, and financial handling techniques are still modeled on systems Lansky and his associates once used. Lansky also exemplifies the complex relationship between organized crime and political power. He rarely confronted authorities head-on. Instead, he preferred covert cooperation, exploiting legal loopholes and political relationships to keep his empire running. This made it incredibly difficult to dismantle the mafia, as it became not just an underground force, but one embedded in legitimate power structures. The image of Meyer Lansky has since become a major inspiration for films, books, and TV series about the Mafia. This cold, brilliant, and calculating crime lord is featured in many famous works, embodying the allure and mystery of the world of organized crime. Meyer Lansky was one of the most complex and contradictory figures in the history of the American underworld. Unlike other crime bosses who were known for violence and raw power, Lansky was renowned for his sharp intellect, financial acumen, and his role in building the modern mafia system. His life serves as a testament to the fusion of business intelligence and organized crime. From a poor immigrant boy to one of the most powerful mafia figures, Lansky played a key role in transforming the landscape of organized crime, especially in the realms of gambling and finance. Unlike Charles "Lucky" Luciano, who was known for reorganizing the mafia, or Pablo Escobar, who ruled the drug trade with brutal force, Lansky operated more discreetly in the background, building a resilient and sophisticated system that was much harder to dismantle. This subtle approach helped him avoid many legal pitfalls and maintain long-term power. Lansky didn't wield violence directly, but through his control of money and strategic relationships, he exercised a form of power that was far more intricate and refined than most crime bosses. Charles "Lucky" Luciano. The two were allies and close collaborators. Luciano was the organizer and front-facing leader, while Lansky was the financial mastermind. Together, they formed an unbeatable duo. Pablo Escobar. Escobar was infamous for his violence and vast drug empire. Lansky, by contrast, focused on stability and sustainable growth in organized crime, especially through gambling and finance. Al Capone. Capone became a media icon through bootlegging and violence in Chicago. Lansky, though less flamboyant, was far more skilled in managing and expanding an international criminal network. Meyer Lansky left a powerful lesson for the modern world of organized crime. True power doesn't always come from brute force or intimidation, but from intelligence, organization, and financial control. He helped transform the mafia from a loose group of street thugs into a structured, efficient, and resilient criminal organization. If you found this video interesting and helpful, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss out on future content. Feel free to leave a comment below if you have any ideas or topics you'd like me to cover in upcoming videos. I'm always open to your suggestions. Thank you so much for watching.